to order pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. On March 29, 2023, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act making appropriations for the fiscal year 2023 to provide for supplementing certain existing appropriations and for certain other activities and projects. This act includes an extension until March 31, 2025 of the remote meeting provisions. This September 11, 2023 Select Board meeting will be conducted via remote participation of the board. I hereby grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting. Is there anyone else who wishes to record the meeting? I see no affirmative responses. So with that, good evening and welcome, everyone. Moving into the chair's update. Today, of course, is September 11th, a solemn day of remembrance of 9/11. And so I'd like to ask that everyone please join us in a brief moment of silence to remember and honor all of the victims of those terror attacks. Thank you. And I'd also like to thank the Westwood Fire Department for their annual remembrance ceremony, which they held this morning in honor of all of the public safety personnel who lost their lives as a result of those attacks in the service of others. Secondly, as we are now in September, the Finance and Warrant Commission has resumed its schedule for the year, and I'd like to thank all of the FinCom members for their significant public service. At their meeting last week, there was a discussion regarding recent select board action with respect to the staffing of the fire department, and I'd like to clarify that the action taken by this board at our August 14, 2023 meeting was to authorize the fire chief to presently increase staffing to 9 firefighters at night and to discuss getting to the recommended level of firefighters on staff at all times as part of the FY25 budget steering process. Next, I want to announce that the Conservation Commission has an immediate opening for a new member. The CONCOM's chair, Stephen David, has recently resigned, and we want to thank him for his years of service to the town. The Select Board is seeking a resident to fill the existing appointed term, which is set to expire on June 30, 2025. The Conservation Commission is appointed by the Select Board and is the official agency specifically charged with the protection of the community's natural resources. The Conservation Commission, under the powers of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Westwood's Wetlands Bylaw, functions to regulate work in or near wetlands and river resource areas, and encourages and works toward the acquisition and management of conservation land. The Conservation Commission also serves as the Stormwater Management Authority and advises other municipal officials and boards on conservation issues that relate to their areas of responsibility. CONCOM meetings are typically held on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. in person. Interested residents should send a resume and a completed statement of interest to Tish Healey at phealey@townhall.westwood.ma.us. That is P. Healey, H-E-L-E-Y, at townhall.westwood.ma.us by Friday, September 22nd, 2023. More information and a copy of the statement of interest can be found on the town's website. And if you'd prefer that Tish email you a copy of this statement of interest, you can email her and ask her for that. And lastly, but not least, Westwood Day is fast approaching on Saturday, September 23rd, rain or shine. The festivities will kick off on Friday, the 22nd at Flayhive Field with the football game and fireworks to follow. And the list of activities for Saturday, September 23rd, includes the 5K 5K run at 9 a.m., the fun run at 10 a.m., and then the vendor village, food court, and entertainment from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. But we still need lots of volunteers for many tasks, including setup, parking monitors, greeters, activity monitors, cleanup crew, and more. Volunteers can sign up for 2.5 to 3.5 hour shifts, and all volunteers receive an event t-shirt. Please sign up at www.westwoodday.org and click on volunteers. That's it for my update. I will turn it over to Chris for the town administrator's update. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Marianne. Yes, just two quick updates. One, to inform the board and the community that very pleased to inform everyone that we had a promotion from our Joe Rashid from a police officer to our sergeant. So he's our newest sergeant. Today was his first shift. He was at the service that you referred to earlier this morning. Joe was sworn in as a police officer on June 8th, 2018, and he was promoted to sergeant today, 9/11/23. Very happy for Joe, very happy for his progress, and look forward to him in this new leadership role. Also, just to provide an update to the board regarding Article 15 from the 2023 annual town meeting, the home rule petition, the elected treasurer, the elected tax collector position. Dottie received some information late the end of last month that we have from Representative McMurtry's office regarding the home rule petition status. There's legislation that was in a hearing in July. However, that's now being continued to September at the earliest. So we're just waiting to hear from Representative McMurtry's office regarding the status update of that home rule petition. And again, that's to move what the action from town meeting to move from the elected treasurer and elected tax collector to appointed treasurer, tax collector, or combination there.
Great.
And those are the two updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. We'll now turn to our scheduled action. Excuse me. And our first order of business is the continued public hearing on a review of a request for a Class 1 auto dealer license for AM Boston Ventures, Inc., DBA Aston Martin, Boston, at 340 Providence Highway. Again, this public hearing is continued from our last meeting and is open. And with us, we have our Community and Economic Development Director, Nora Loughnane. Welcome, Nora. And would you like to introduce our guests, Nora?
Yes, I believe Michael Ardros is not able to attend, but I believe we have Counsel David Hearn here representing the dealership.
Yeah. Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, Attorney Hearn. Oh, yes.
And I know it's a continuance, but I don't know that we ever officially opened the hearing at our last meeting. Should you? We should open it?
No, you did open it at your last.
Okay. Thank you.
Nora, I will turn this over to you.
Thank you. So at your last meeting, there was a request for a continuance of this hearing to await the submission of an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This property has been in continuous use as an automobile dealership for many years. It's a pre-existing non-conforming use in a residential zone. The previous user was Highline Autos, and before that it was Enterprise Car Rental. In 2009, Enterprise went to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit to allow for them to lease as well as sell automobiles and to handle some repairs. And that special permit was later amended. They also received a variance for certain illuminated signs. Many of those same provisions were altered somewhat when Highline was there, but they were still an automobile dealership. Now Aston Martin is coming back. They want to have slightly different signs, which they will have to go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for some amendments, both to the special permit and to the variance that allows for the illumination of these signs. It's really just a process of cleaning up the application or cleaning up the special permit and the variance to make it apply equal to Aston Martin. The soonest the ZBA could have a hearing on this is September 20th. I would still request, if the board is willing to do that, that they issue the license for the Class 1 auto dealership conditional upon the receipt of amended special permit and variance by the ZBA. I can also tell you that there were building permit applications that were also filed, one for an existing building inspection and another for a new sign. So the ZBA will hear the case on the 20th of September, and assuming they grant approval, the building commissioner will issue the permits that are necessary for this to move forward.
Thank you, Nora. Attorney Hearn, would you like to be heard?
I would. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is David Hearn Jr. I am an attorney with Gellerman and Cabral, LLC, with offices at 30 Walpole Street in Norwood. I have represented Michael Agiros in various matters involving his automobile dealerships. Aston Martin is one of them. He is also one of the principals of Norwood Cadillac. And he has a fair amount of experience over the years in running and owning automobile dealerships. The proposed Aston Martin dealership at 340 Providence Highway will be a sales facility at the Westwood location. We will have a general manager overseeing the operation, a salesperson, a finance person, and a detail person. Repairs, if needed, or service of any vehicles connected to the dealership, sold through the dealership, or serviced by the dealership, will actually take place at a facility that the company has at 981 Boston Providence Turnpike, Route 1 in Norwood, at Dean Street, the former Direct Tire location. And so service will be handled there. And the only thing comparable to service that would occur at the Westwood location would be washing and detailing of cars in connection with, say, delivery of a new vehicle to a purchaser. I think I understand all the paperwork is ordered. I appreciate that this was continued, and I was asked to come into it sometime after the August date to help out. And we're also pursuing, as Ms. Loughnane mentioned, we're pursuing relief with the zoning board, and we need to satisfy the requirements of the building commissioner. That is, I think, all well in hand, and we hope that at the hearing next week, we'll get the necessary approvals. We have no objection to the idea that, and we think it makes sense, that if the license is issued by your board this evening, it would be conditional upon the necessary zoning and building department approvals. But we've got to get one thing out of the way so we can pursue the others. So that is essentially it. I'm happy to take questions. I do think that this situation is one where under Chapter 140, Section 58, you can issue the Class 1 license, and we ask that you do so.
Thank you, Attorney Hearn. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
None from me.
None from me.
I'd like to open this up for public comment. We'll give that a moment. I am not seeing any public comment or questions. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move the select board grant a Class 1 motor vehicle agent or seller's license to AM Boston Ventures, Inc., doing business as Aston Martin Boston, pending final inspections by the public safety departments and issuance of an amended special permit and variance by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and for the electronic signature of the select board to be affixed to the Aston Martin Class 1 motor vehicle agent license thereto.
I'll second the motion.
All right, roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We do need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. All right.
Second.
I'll give you the full. Move that we close the September 11th, 2023 Aston Martin Boston Class 1 auto dealer license public hearing. This public hearing was a continuation of the August 28th, 2023 select board meeting.
Second.
Roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Attorney Byrne. Thank you, Nora. We will now move into a second public hearing of the night, which is to review an application from Pollard's Test Kitchen for a new Section 15 off-premise wine and malt license and to appoint a manager of record. I will first entertain a motion to open this public hearing.
I move that we open the public hearing today, September 11th, 2023 for Pollard's Test Kitchen at 687 High Street for a new Section 15 off-premise wine and malt license.
Second.
Roll call. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And with us, we have Nora Loughnane again. And Nora, would you like to introduce our guests?
Yes, we have Doug Pollard, who will be the operator of the Pollard's Test Kitchen. And Doug, I'm sorry, I don't have the name in front of me of the woman who's sitting next to you. If you'd like to.
That's all right. That's my wife, Stephanie.
Very
Hello.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
so this application is for the premises where the High Street Market operates today. Pollard's Test Kitchen would take over that lease or have its own lease, take over that space in October. And they're proposing a very similar operation. It would be a food store with on-premise sales of wine and malt beverages. They would continue to sell meats, seafood, produce, general grocery items. The area that's set up for alcohol would be under the 30% maximum allowed under the Westwood's licensing requirements. And the hours would only be slightly different from what is now operating at High Street Market. The Pollard Test Kitchen would like to operate Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that's just slightly later on Friday than I think the High Street Market closes at 7 o'clock Monday through Friday and closes at 5 p.m. on Saturday. So slightly longer hours. They have submitted information to the health department. And so the request is that any approval that the board chooses to grant be conditional upon receipt of the food service permit as well. But everything appears to be in order.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to Westwood, Doug and Stephanie. We're delighted to have you here. It's obviously a very special spot in Westwood that you'd be moving to. And the menu looks terrific. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Just one quick clarification, Nora. In your talking about it, I heard you mention on-premise, meaning in this case, they would be selling the beer and wine on-premise, but not for consumption on-premise.
Yes, excuse me. It's an off-premise Section 15 license. They would sell it at the site to take away. It would not be, there would be no pouring at this location.
Thank
Correct.
you.
And one other thing I'd mention is that the Alcohol Review Committee did review this and unanimously recommended the Select Board's granting of this license.
Thank you. Anything, Joe?
None.
All right. Let's open this up for public comment. We'll give it a moment. I am not seeing any public comment. With that, I will entertain a motion.
Okay, I move that we grant approval to Pollard's Test Kitchen LLC, doing business as Pollard's Test Kitchen, for a new Section 15 off-premise wine and malt license pending public safety sign-offs, food permit issuance, and ABCC Alcohol Beverage Control Commission approval, and that the electronic signatures of the select board be affixed to the license form, and that we grant approval of Doug Pollard as the manager of record for Pollard's Test Kitchen. at 687 High Street.
I'll second that, Rob.
All right, roll call. Joe,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Doug and Stephanie, welcome to Westwood and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank
We're very
you.
excited. Thank you so much.
Much success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll now entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I move the select board close the public hearing here on September 11th, 2023 for Pollard's Test Kitchen at 687 High Street for the new Section 15 off-premise wine and malt license public hearing.
Second.
Roll call. Joe,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on with our scheduled action. Next, we have a request for a one-day special alcohol license to St. Mark's for its annual Greek Fest to be held on Saturday, September 16, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sunday the 17th from 12 to 7. And with us, again, we have Nora. I don't know if we have any guests coming in on this.
So I know that Father George was not able to make it tonight. I'm not sure if there's anyone else in the attendees who'd like to speak on behalf of St. Mark's. If you could raise your hand, Tish will move you over. If not, I'm happy to just take, oh, here we go, Nick.
We have a Nick that raised his hand.
If you could allow him to participate, please. While we're waiting for Nick to come in, I can just explain to you, this is, I believe, the ninth, I believe it's the 8th year, but 9 years ago, they started this, this 2-day Greek Fest. Started in 2015, and this year it will be much like it has been in past years. They're requesting one-day licenses for Saturday, September 16th and Sunday, September 17th. They would have a large tent set up. They will have food sales, vendors. There'll be live music, entertainment. There'll be a police detail, as there has been in past years. They've once again requested permission for parking at Westwood High School as well as at First Parish. This has been a fabulous community event, and it's gone on without a hitch since 2015, and we're very much looking forward to it again this year. I'll also mention that the servers are tip certified, as they have been in all past years, and we have never had any incidents with this event.
And I'll just add that if you didn't mention this, Nora, the Alcohol Review Committee voted unanimously to recommend approval of this license, correct?
Yes, we did. Yes.
Excellent. Well, it is a wonderful community event, that's for sure. Any comments or questions from my colleagues?
Did Nick have anything that he wanted to add to anything that Nora said?
I don't know if you can hear me. I can't see myself on the video there.
We can.
Okay, great. Yes, Father George is sorry he couldn't really attend this. I am the parish council president, so he sent me in his stead. I mean, everything has pretty much been said. It's an annual festival that we have for the community, and you know, we always look forward to doing this. So we've gone through all the permits and everything else, so that we have the last 2 left for the tent and the last inspection, which happened the day before. But we're ready to go.
Wonderful. Thank you for opening it up to the community.
One other thing I want to point out, as in past years, we're asking for the setup to be allowed on Friday and the breakdown on Monday. So we're actually asking for the license to be effective from Friday, the 15th at noon until Monday, the 18th at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Nora. I will entertain a motion.
Certainly, I move the select board grant approval to St. Mark's one-day special beer and wine license to serve alcohol on Saturday, September 16th, 2023 from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sunday, September 17th, from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. At the setup time, as Nora just mentioned, remove alcohol from the premises from 12 p.m. on Friday, September 15th through Monday, September 18th at 2 p.m., pending public safety inspections and the food permit issuance, and that electronic signatures of the select board be affixed to the license.
Chairman, point of order. Mr. Gotti, I think you said a one-day license. I think it's actually a two-day license. If
Yeah,
you'd like to amend your
Category
motion
category is a one-day license.
Okay.
So it's a one-day license
for 2
that's
days.
effective 2 days.
2 consecutive one-day licenses. How's that?
There you go.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion with the understanding that I think it's a great event, and my only comment is I gained too much weight last year, but it's a great time.
Duly noted.
Thanks.
I didn't mean it that way, Joe. Roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Nick, thank you very much for being with us. Best of luck with the event. And Nora, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Close the public hearing.
This was
Madam Chairman, it was a public hearing.
No, this was not a public hearing.
this was not a public hearing.
Oh,
Pat.
I'm sorry, for a one-day license,
Not a public hearing?
not for a one-day license. It's just
Thank
a public meeting.
I think we're good.
You're good.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you
Counselor.
very much.
Thank you very
Overcautious,
much.
yes.
All right. Continuing on with our scheduled action, our next agenda item is an update on the Canton Street Corridor project. We are going to be getting an update on this, although this is informational only for the board. We are not taking any action tonight. And with us, we have our DPW Director, Todd Corchin. Welcome.
Thank you.
We have John Rockwell from TEC. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
And also Michael Kraft, the chair of the Pedestrian and Bike Safety Committee. Welcome.
Thank you. And just for minor correction, we are the Pedestrian Bicycle Advisory Committee.
Thank you so much for that correction.
That's okay.
I knew it when I said it. Thank you. Todd, I will turn this over to you.
Sure. So first and foremost, thank you for having us tonight, John. Michael, thank you for attending as well. Obviously, we have our public hearing slated for September 28th. That's at 7 p.m. in the Downey School Cafeteria. To date, we have met with approximately 20 residents along the Canton Street corridor. 100% of those have been on site. John has been in attendance, Brendan Ryan, the Assistant Department of Public Works Director, and myself. We've had the opportunity to view concerns in person. I'll be honest with you, of the 20 that we've met with thus far, they're 20 for 20 as far as opposition of the project. They're direct abutters. They're not in favor of the project. They've expressed very valid concerns. The tree removals obviously are a major concern out of the gate. The rock wall disturbances are another issue that's been brought to our attention a number of times. And obviously, I'm sure everybody's aware of the signage that's been put out along the corridor thus far, referencing a third lane. The sign that's out there is referencing a third lane. Just to clarify, there's no proposed third lane for the project. It's a shared use path, but unfortunately, it's being misinterpreted as a third lane. But if I go back to the 20 meetings that we've had thus far, like I had mentioned, 20 for 20, completely opposed to the project. But on the flip side of the coin, basically everybody, I'd say 20 of the 20 are for at least a sidewalk. I think it's the shared use path that's causing a lot of confusion. That's what is being, again, misinterpreted as a third lane. It obviously creates a higher level of impact along the corridor. It is not our intention to destroy that corridor at all. It's the Department of Public Works' intention to present a project to the community. and present what we feel as though is the best project or has the best chances of us taking advantage of an outside funding mechanism from the state and federal government. And that's what we've done thus far. That said, I know some select board members possibly have had the opportunity or the ability to go out there and meet with some residents on their own. It's very hard to stand there from my standpoint in some cases and say to any individual that the level of impact is minimal. Because quite frankly, as I've mentioned before, it won't be. The disturbances of the trees, the rock walls, and again, going to the rock walls, it's our intention to restore the rock walls as they currently lay, the formation that they're laying in now. That's part of the plan, is to restore them. But for anyone to say that the level of impact is not going to be there, it most certainly will. So we're at the point right now in design, still early stages at a 25% level. And that said, the state will be hosting this public hearing next week. And we've mentioned this to several residents. And I feel as though, with some of the meetings that we've had, I get it, emotions get in the way, and perhaps maybe things aren't listened to clearly or misinterpreted. But this public hearing with the state is the opportunity for both opposition and proponents of the project have that ability, have that platform to be heard before the state representation that's going to be there. They're going to come into the room. They're not coming in to throw a design out at the town saying, this is what you have to adhere to. That is not the intention of the state, nor is it the intention of our department here. The intention of this meeting is to present what we have currently in the option that's laid out currently, that there is a funding commitment to move forward. That said, the state will be there listening. They're going to hear a ton of opposition. We get it. They're going to hear a ton of proponents for the project that was there during the May 16th meeting. We get it. But I think it's in everybody's best interest to just take a step back a little bit, go into this meeting open-minded, and voice their opinions, voice their concerns, but in a legit way that it can be a constructive way. Because if the state hears the level of opposition that I quite frankly speculate will happen, I think that they can be open ears, they can be open-minded, and there might be a little give and take. There might be a lot. I can't express, or I can't say for certain the level of flexibility that the state might have, but they certainly will entertain thoughts, concepts, things that are presented to them, valid points that the residents and the direct abutters will bring up, and quite possibly could lead to a more flexible design, something different than what is being currently presented at a minimal of 25%. We have to start somewhere, and it was my decision to start with a level of design that gave the town the decision and the opportunity to have a funding mechanism in place. So we're not digging into our pocket right out of the gate. If that's not what the town wants to do, then that's fine. But we have to understand that certain facets from the previous administration were required to move forward to receive the funding mechanism and the ability to have this paid for from an outside entity, not to have it come from the town of Westwood. There's a new administration right now. The game might be a little different, might be a little more flexibility, but we're not going to know that until we have this public hearing. And I think that's what we all have to do. We still have a number of meetings lined up. I mean, the slate's full for this Friday, and I welcome that. I want to go out. I want to meet with the residents. I hope some of them are listening. I hope all of them are listening. But unfortunately, looking at signs and seeing some of the things that are out there, it's clear that things are being misinterpreted. But I hope moving forward, especially as we go to this public hearing, that there's clarity provided and that there's a willingness from the state to meet the town in the middle, because it's not our intention to blow up all of Canton Street. That's not what we're here for. It's not TEC's intention to sell a project. That's not what they're here for. TEC is doing a job that we hired them to do. They're pursuing an opportunity and ability for the town to take advantage of something that is offered by the government. If we don't want to do that, or if there's, again, more flexibility to still take advantage of that, maybe we'll find out, but we can't find out until we have this hearing. So sorry that was very long-winded, but on that note, if there are questions too pertaining to design or anything that I missed, John, I mean, feel free to chime in.
Madam Chair, just as a point of Todd, I thought I heard you say the meeting with the state is next week. If I'm not mistaken, it's on the 28th.
I'm sorry. It's Thursday, September 28th.
Okay, thank you.
I want to get to the meeting as quick as everybody else does. So I'm trying to fast track it. Believe me, I can't wait for that meeting to happen, but it's in 2 weeks. It's September 28th, 7 p.m. in the Downey School cafeteria.
Thank you, Todd. John, would you like to add?
No, I mean, I think Todd summed it up pretty well. I'm hopeful that the DPH, the design public hearing, will give us the opportunity to clear up some of the misconceptions that we've heard among the direct abutters about the project, and also give them the opportunity, Ford MassDOT, the opportunity to voice kind of the impetus behind some of their standards that we're moving forward with within the current design. Well, yeah, happy to entertain any questions that the board has at this point.
Questions from my colleagues?
No, I think it really comes down to getting to the meeting on the 28th that Todd is so eager to have, so that we can explore what the possibilities may be for what this could look like in order to achieve the accomplishment of making the road itself safer while also preserving the integrity of the scenic route.
Madam Chair, I would like the ability to come back before the select board also as a follow-up. I mean, once we're all in attendance at this meeting, the state is going to obviously huddle up afterwards and get their thoughts, their views. But if we could bring back, at least come back to the select board to see what the select board's feelings are based on what that meeting presented or represented that evening.
Todd, I think that's an excellent idea, and I hope that we can get that on the agenda for in October after that hearing takes place.
Thank you.
So just for everybody's benefit, coming out of that meeting, the next step in the process in your mind is what? Or what is the next step in that process?
The next step in the process is I'd like to at least get a reaction from the state. We have a good open line of communication with them. Obviously, I wouldn't call them Friday morning, but give it a week or so just to follow back up with them and see what their thoughts, see what their feelings are at that point. And just to get a general sense, I mean, during that conversation, if we give it a week or so, let them just ponder what they heard, see if they can come up with any plans. And then we'll get a general vibe as to where they stand and how much level of flexibility they're willing to have. I think that's the key word with respect to this. I mean, I don't want to throw any false hopes or promises out there, but if there's levels of flexibility to allow us to pursue what most have desired, be it, a pedestrian accommodation just on one side of the roadway, for us as a community, I think that would be an ideal scenario. That would be a win-win. But I don't know if they're going to be flexible enough for that. Like I said, it's a new administration. There's a process that you'd have to go through for them to at least adhere to that. You'd have to get state support. You'd have to get complete streets support. And then you'd have to have the secretary sign off on it. And those are three major hurdles that you would have to overcome in order for us to at least have that level of flexibility come into play. But the first thing, Rob, not to be so long-winded with everything I'm saying tonight, definitely just get that, not a knee-jerk reaction, but a solid reaction from them, probably a week or so afterwards, and then be able to bring back, hopefully that, and maybe some more information from them to the select board during the October meeting. And hopefully it's good news or promising news from the town's perspective that we're able to accommodate some of what we've heard. I mean, and I will say there are a lot of proponents for this project as well. I don't want to sit here and say that it's all opposition. The direct abutters, 100% are the opposition thus far that we've spoken with. There are residents that are calling that are very much in favor of this project. In fact, I received an email about 25 minutes ago, not a direct abutter, but a resident that is very much in favor of this project, but also is hearing that proponents of the project are fearful to even go out there now because they're hearing so much with the opposition and they're holding back and they don't want to create tension at the bus stop, which I can totally understand. I mean, it's a tough scenario. It really is. It's viewed by some as such and it's viewed by others as such. And I keep saying it's tough to view it from a different set of lenses when you're looking at it from a certain set. So we're trying to navigate through this. I will say in the years that I've been director of public works, this has been one of the more challenging projects that I've ever taken on. And our team's done a great job in trying to listen and trying not to say too much, but also trying to stay neutral as we can, because we are hearing both sides of this, believe it or not.
Thank you.
Michael,
Hello.
did you want to comment?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you very much. And I hope you'll indulge me. I've got a few minutes of prepared remarks and a couple of photographs I'd like to share with you. First, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to address the select board on this important topic. Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee strongly supports sidewalks and all steps to increase pedestrian and bicycle safety throughout the town. But while these are important safety initiatives, they involve substantial capital investment and require an understanding and commitment from all who are impacted. While the state funding lends substantial weight to the decision, it cannot be the only consideration. And I want to just step aside for a quick moment and acknowledge Todd Corchin's involvement in support of our committee and the projects that we've recommended. And we are also hugely appreciative of the many grants that he's obtained to advance the interests of pedestrian and bicycle safety throughout the town. So this is, certainly a tremendous financial opportunity for the town, but the committee wants to share with the select board several concerns that have been raised by the members of the public at large during the past 2 or 3 meetings of our committee. The primary concern that we hear is about the 10-foot wide multi-use path and the 6-foot wide buffer zones. The path itself will likely provide tremendous benefits to the town and the neighborhood, including greater safety for cyclists and pedestrians, opportunities for neighbors to easily visit and commune with one another, and creating a connection between the Islington neighborhoods and University Avenue. However, in building the path, there will be many large and old growth trees removed, and this will likely greatly affect the character of Canton Street and the neighborhood in a negative way. And for those whose property is directly affected, it will change completely their front yards. The neighbors that have approached us all favor a sidewalk on Canton Street, but there's a perception, from what we've heard, that there's not been sufficient public involvement in the design process. Residents have expressed that they are being told this is the plan, that there's no flexibility. As well, they believe that there's not sufficient disclosure of the scope of work, the impact on their property, or the inclusion of those who live on Canton Street. They also add there seems to be a little consideration of the aesthetics of the plan. We want to be clear, our committee, that these are perceptions of those who've come to our meetings and are not necessarily the views of our committee or its members. Building the project will require substantial capital investment. Having access to the state funds that will cover all or most of this cost is certainly desirable. However, if it comes at the cost of alienating those who are most directly affected, that may not be in the best interests of the town at large. Our committee recommends that before the project proceed, that there be created a special Canton Street Sidewalk Committee that would be made up of various stakeholders that would include neighbors who live on the street, head of DPW, the town planner, and members of the select board, planning board, and our committee. This group would evaluate the current plan and alternative plans before this becomes a final design. This should not be strictly a yes or no vote on the one and only plan that's presented. The residents and others may prefer that we not be constrained by the state's requirements for funding if we can create a design that reduces the overall impact. The state may agree to modify the requirements, and I think Todd was alluding to that a few minutes ago, and still provide the funds, or the town may prefer to pay for this all ourselves. All of this should be explored, and we feel that creating a committee that considers all of these points could assuage many of the objections that have been raised. Further, our committee would prefer consideration of various changes that may improve the impact. For instance, can the sidewalk and multi-use path be designed to avoid removal of many of the larger trees by meandering around them? Can the walls be moved forward toward the street instead of back from the roadway to reduce the 6-foot buffer? We would prefer to have a pathway that would be behind the walls and not in front of it. Would there be planting of new trees along the roadway and inside the buffer zone to create an alley? And if you're not familiar, I can share with you my screen. Give me a moment, please. Picture of this. Okay. So can you all see that photograph?
Yes.
So that's obviously a European roadway, but we even have them here in the United States. nice tree-lined street where the trees have created the buffer between the cars and the pedestrians. A very pretty way of recreating, the pastoral feel that currently exists on Canton Street. There were a number of new trees that have been planted behind the Hanlon School. I went over there today. They actually have some similarities to this, though they're young trees. I will see if I can share that. Let's see. So there is this picture. Can you all see that? Maybe a little hard to make out, but the pathway is on the left side, and along the right side, you can see all those green cones at the base of the new trees. So that will become, in short order, my understanding, these trees actually can grow a foot to 2 feet a year. So that, within 5 to 10 years, there could be a very significant row of trees here along the pathway. And they've also planted some white pines as well, some very significant white pines. So these are oaks, but there's also pine trees. And there's a variety of trees that could be planted that grow rather quickly and are quite beautiful and could align the street and give us that effect. So at the very least, we think it's imperative that the large trees that are going to be removed be marked, as well as the line of work, so the public can better assess the impact of what's being proposed. In conclusion, we very much want to see a sensible and aesthetically pleasing sidewalk and bicycle accommodation on Canton Street, but we are fearful that the current plan, without modification, could result in a detriment to the neighborhood and the town. If this project is completed and not well received, it could impact our ability to build new sidewalks elsewhere in town. The cost of the project and the availability of state funds are important, but should not be the only consideration in making this decision. I thank you for allowing me to make those remarks, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Michael, thank you very much. And thank you to all the members of the advisory committee for their work on this. Certainly appreciate you raising those concerns. And I think all of this will be on the table to discuss, particularly after we have some more feedback after the DOT hearing on September 28th and the feedback that Todd is expecting to receive from the state after that. And that will be in a better position at that point to have a discussion on this. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Nothing further from me.
No, nothing, Marianne.
Okay. Well, Todd, thank you very much for
Thank
all
you.
your considerable work on this. John, Michael, thank you very much for joining us with this important update. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to new business. And our first item there is the FY24 release of capital for the second quarter. And we have Stephanie McManus with us, our finance director. Welcome.
Thank you. So each fiscal year, the select board takes the additional step of approving the release of funds on a quarterly basis for any approved capital approved at the most recent town meeting. So this year we have already requested the first quarter capital release, and tonight I'm before you requesting the second quarter capital release. The overall total capital budget that was approved in May was about 5.1 million. And tonight for the second quarter capital release, we are requesting $726,750,000. That is spread out across the different departments. 106,000 of that is for municipal, 120,000 is for school, and 500,000 is for sewer. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions?
None from me.
None.
Thank you, Stephanie. If there are, it sounds like we don't have any questions on this. It's pretty straightforward. I'll entertain a motion.
I move the select board approve the release of the second quarter fiscal year 24 capital totaling $726,750 to the various departments contingent upon all procurement procedures and checklists being fulfilled.
I'll second the motion.
Call the roll. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you, Stephanie. And you're with us for our next item, which is a financial update. Thank you.
Thank you again. So at the last select board meeting, I came in front of you to present the FY23 year-end close information. I went through all of that, including all revenue and expenditures. One piece that was missing from that presentation was the certified amount for free cash. So I am back today just with an update on that. We hadn't had that certified yet, but we do now. If you don't mind, I'll just share my screen for a very brief presentation.
Please.
All right, are you able to see that okay?
We are.
Great. So each year, the Department of Revenue certifies the town's free cash as of July 1st. So this year, the DOR has certified the town's free cash at $10,959,301. So that is of July 1st, 2023. This amount is higher than the previous year's balance of 7.7 million. And I'll just quickly go through a little bit of background on free cash and then the difference of this year's balance as opposed to the previous years. So there is disciplined use of free cash. We don't use it to fund ongoing operating expenditures or budget shortfalls. We are restricted to paying for one-time expenditures or funding capital projects. We adhere to our financial policies, and the available amount continues to be used for capital needs, not operating budgets. I do want to point out that we had, as I presented in the last meeting, we have positive FY23 budget to actual results, and there was appropriate amount for year-end operating budget turnback. So the FY24 current budget was funded in the amount of about $3.8 million of free cash. This was everything that was approved at the Maytown meeting, including $2.3 million for school and municipal capital, $125,000 towards the stabilization fund, $405,000 for the FinCom reserve fund, and then $393,000 for the town meeting Article 2 transfers, which were to fund any overages in the FY23 budget. And that just shows a brief, as I said, as you can see, the previous year's certification was at 7.7 million, and it is significantly higher this year at 10.9 million. And then this just is a chart of the previous year's amounts that were certified in the different years, as well as planned uses. So this is the column that we've inserted for this time right now, just estimates for the upcoming town meeting, what we'll use as we start our FY25 budget process. So our financial policies indicate that we should have $4 million in unallocated free cash. This is based on the FY24 general fund operating budget, net of any debt service. So in recent years, we've been very close to this target. However, as you can see with this most recent certification, we're currently above that target number. This financial policy is very important. It's an important component of the town's overall financial health, as well as a key component of our high credit rating. So the current balance would allow us to continue our planned budget amounts going into the next fiscal year, including the stabilization fund, the FinCom reserve, and any base capital, as well as miscellaneous articles and additional capital articles, and still stay within our financial policies. So some years we might fund those additional capital articles through meals and hotel tax, some years through free cash, depending on what those balances are for the different accounts. So as I said, the amount this year of 10.9 million is higher than the prior year's balance of 7.7 million. As I presented in the FY23 year-end close reviews at the previous meeting, which I hope maybe makes a little bit more sense now, a major driver for this increase is the FY23 revenue from local receipts. In particular, the impact of both a higher than normal cash balance due to the borrowing for the most recent elementary school project, as well as higher interest rates that were available. So the combination of these two factors created a unique situation for the town. We don't expect this to be continuing in the near future, but free cash in general does include receipts in excess of any revenue estimates. So that is a big contributor this year for that number. The high cash balance and interest rates and utilization, as I said, of reserve sources for this year's additional capital projects such as meals and hotel tax really drove that amount. But I just want to note that it's not an indication of any ongoing budget issues. It's just due to some unique combination of conditions this past year. And that's all I have, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
And just to clarify, to make sure folks understand, Stephanie, the meals and hotel tax revenue is in a separate account that does not go into free cash, and that money can only be voted on by town meeting to use.
Correct. That fund was set up that way a few years ago at a prior town meeting, that it has to be set aside in a special account and voted at any town meeting for spending out of that specific account. So that's correct. It's a different use of funding.
Thank you.
And I just want to say one more thing. So free cash is not available for use until after the town accountant submits the prior year what we call a balance sheet. It's a very complicated, intense process that we go through with the Division of Local Services. So I just wanted to say thank you to her, because this is probably one of the earliest we've ever had this number certified, which is very helpful as we go into our next budget cycle. So I just want to say thank you for her team for that.
Indeed. Any questions from my colleagues or comments?
No, Stephanie, I was just going to say, this is very, very helpful to have it this early in the process. I know typically we don't get it till November, in some cases even early December. So very, very helpful to have at this point.
I do have one question for Stephanie. I understand it can't be used for operational costs, but could it be used for design and bid documents for the new fire station?
In general, free cash could be used for, that would, I guess, would be considered a one-time capital expenditure.
Thank you.
Well, it's certainly good news.
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, for your report. All right, I think we can move on to our next agenda item, which is an intermunicipal agreement regarding animal control services. And with us on this, we have Molly Keene.
That one's for me. So for a long time, the town of Westwood has been served by a part-time animal control officer, Paul Jolliker, who is actually moving on to do some different work with the town of Westwood. He's not going anywhere. We're just utilizing his skills in different areas. Animal control, as an industry, is a very difficult position to fill, especially when you're on a part-time basis. With the size of Westwood, we couldn't warrant a full-time animal control officer. It would have to be part-time. So the chief and I put our heads together to try to figure out, is this something that we could partner with one of our neighboring communities to try to provide the service at a better cost for Westwood and not have to hire someone to do it. I'm delighted to say that Dedham has taken us on. So Dedham has agreed to provide all of the animal control services to the town of Westwood through their full-time animal control officer, who happens to live in Westwood. So it's very convenient for her. And the town of Dedham will pay the full cost of the salaries, the full cost of the benefits, OPEB, pension liability, all those things. And the town of Westwood will cut a check directly to the town of Dedham once a year in the amount of $4,000 to provide those services, which is less than what we would be paying for a part-time employee. This is definitely the model that a lot of animal control operations are moving into. And it's a great example of regionalization that we're able to do in our area. So the chief and I are very excited about it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Molly, can you just explain for us and for the residents what the duties and responsibilities of an animal control officer are, and how, if at all, the service to Westwood residents would change with this intermunicipal agreement?
Sure. The animal control officer has one of the more interesting job descriptions, I think, of anybody here in town. It goes everything from lost dogs to coyotes who are out in the daytime to, I believe there's more than one chicken farm in Westwood, is something I learned recently. So I'm just trying to think of a common example. A lost dog is a very common one. And so if a resident loses a dog, usually the first place they call is the police. Our police officers here in Westwood are unbelievable at going out themselves and searching for lost dogs. But the animal control officer would also be able to help there. When there is a dog without an owner, per se, it's often delivered to the police station. And if it's not claimed by the end of the night, I think the officers would like it if the dog would stay overnight, but they can't. So the animal control officer would be in charge of transporting that animal to a facility. I believe their facility is in Natick to be housed overnight. The animal control officer does a variety of hearings for dog bites, for citations for off leashes. There really should not be any change in service having this arrangement with Dedham. The number of animal control calls the town of Westwood gets, I think it was about 37 calls in 14 months when we were doing the analysis. So it's not a huge number. And because the animal control officer happens to live in Westwood, I don't even think there will be much of a time delay in providing those services to residents.
Thank you. You anticipated my next question about the demand.
Yeah.
The 37 calls in about 14 months.
Right.
Questions or comments, Joe, Rob?
I appreciate you and the chief putting your heads together for how we might be able to provide a similar level of service for a more efficient delivery model.
Great move, Molly. Great move. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. I will entertain a motion on this.
I move the select board approve and sign the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Westwood and the town of Dedham for shared animal control services.
Second.
Roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Molly, thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Our next order of new business is a discussion of a 2023 fall town meeting. Chris, I'll turn this over to you to lead the discussion. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Marianne. Yeah, so pursuant to the charter, the select board has to vote by September 15th if it plans not to proceed with a fall town meeting. We call it a fall annual town meeting. The fall annual town meeting is held on the second Monday of November. As the board's well aware, and I see some FinCom members as attendees, as they're fully aware, there is a process that we have here before we have a town meeting. We certainly do not have anything that is ready or was ready for that process. So we are certainly making that recommendation to the board to consider to vote not to hold a fall annual town meeting this year, 2023. I know town council's here as well. If there's any additional information town council feels that should be added, by all means.
Summed it up succinctly. Mr. Coleman.
Discussion with my colleagues.
None.
None from me.
Yeah. Well, in that event, given that there is nothing before us at this point, I will entertain a motion.
I move the select board vote to cancel the 2023 fall town meeting and to order that notice of its decision with regard to such meeting be posted in accordance with Chapter 2, Section 6-1, the business session of the town meeting of the town charter.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you, Chris. Moving on to old business relative to appointments and reappointments. Chris, I will turn this over to you relative to the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee.
Thank you. Yeah, so as the board is aware, just to remind those who are listening, we do have a vacancy in one of the select board's appointed boards or committees. There's an informal process that we go through. I met with Amanda Wolf, who's our housing agent, and we have a resident, Kathleen Levine, who is interested in serving on the Housing Partnership, the Fair Housing Committee. It was a very good conversation. Kathleen is very interested, obviously, but very excited to serve in this capacity. And after the conversation with Amanda, it is our recommendation that she be appointed to this role.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine, for stepping up. Any questions or comments?
No, I just want to comment on, the very impressive resume, Ms. Devine, and we are so lucky to have people who are continuing to willingly step up and serve. So thank you for doing so, and no further questions from me.
I don't have any questions, Mary Ann.
Ditto that, Rob. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we appoint Catherine Levine to the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Roll call. Joe.
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you again, Catherine. Thank you, Chris. And with that, we are at public and press. And I will remind folks that if you do enter a comment or a question in the chat, please include your full name and address. I'm not seeing any as of yet. Give it another moment. Okay, this is from Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane. Will there be a town meeting prior to May 2024 to vote on the new fire station? What is the process once the feasibility study is completed in October? Thank you, Kathy. As far as a town meeting prior to May 2024, this board has not discussed or voted, much less voted on that. And I'll just reiterate for folks that, as most people know, we have an open meeting law that governs the work that we do as a board, which means that all of our discussions and deliberations must take place in an open forum in public. So you've heard our discussion tonight. As far as the feasibility study, we've discussed that at prior meetings in terms of our looking at that once the study is completed, and we'll have a discussion at that time. We've not yet discussed what the process is going to be. That's something that we have to deliberate on openly and decide at that time. So stay tuned. Next we have, this is from Ellen Rawlings, 86 Green Hill Road. I have been attending Conservation Commission meetings regularly for the past couple of years. I have also spoken with some of you individually and expressed my concerns about this particular board and its overall approach to applications. My observations are that there are some members that are truly on board with what the mission of this commission is supposed to be. From our official town webpage, the Conservation Commission is the official agency specific community natural resources. Sorry, Ellen, that got divided up there. We currently also have some members that seem to have different priorities. I have observed a troubling trend in that some members focus on granting waivers and expediting applications. I have also noted what I would call an inappropriate tendency on the part of some members to want to grant relief after the fact when an applicant has violated the law rather than enforcing penalties for the violation. I see this vacancy as a golden opportunity to ensure, and it gets cut off. Oh, sorry, Ellen, it's been cut up. I see this vacancy as a golden opportunity to ensure that this board is made up of individuals who are truly committed to the mission and function of the Conservation Commission and understand what both of those things are. I strongly urge you to select a candidate who has a proven track record of advocating for conservation and preservation and will commit to upholding and enforcing both the town bylaws and Massachusetts state laws, e.g. the Wetlands Protection Act, etc. Okay. Not seeing any other questions or comments. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. Fran Fusco, 20 Pine Lane. Why are votes taken on some things before public comment? Makes public input non-contributory. Well, Fran, we've discussed this, and as you know, people do often include comments while we are discussing items, and we have taken those comments during those discussions. We've been doing that routinely since being on Zoom for these meetings, and that has been helpful. Not seeing any other questions. I will move on to say that our next meeting will be Wednesday, October 11th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Please note that's a Wednesday due to the Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day holiday. And with that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session. And I will read first that the select board will be going into executive session to discuss one issue pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to discuss strategy with respect to the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, Hale Education, Inc., discussion of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if the discussion were in open session. The board will not be returning to open session. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I will move that motion with the noted that I will not be participating in that, as this is an item that I have recused myself from the past. So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you, everyone, and good evening.